Maybe I made a mistake.
You did.
Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't have put it in a museum. Maybe I should have destroyed it.
Look, that shield represents a lot of things to a lot of people, including me. World's upside down. We need a new captain. It ain't gonna be Walker, so before you go and destroy it, I'm gonna take it from him myself.
Hey, I'm Derek.
And I'm Noah, and you're listening to A Bite of.
Where we take our current favorite pop culture obsession and enjoy it one nibble at a time.
Are you guys ready? Halfway through Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yes, sir. Episode 3. It's crazy that this is halfway through.
Yeah, it is really weird.
Right? It feels like so much has happened, yet nothing has happened at all.
That's not true.
And it's like 3
Tons have
episodes
happened.
and we're almost done. It's like, what's going on?
Yeah, I do feel like this show has been a little set-uppy a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we found out a bunch of stuff going on in the MCU and what's happened with the blip, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe these next 3 episodes will tie it all together and it will be great and worth it.
It's like, guys, show don't tell. In writing. It's like, show us what's happening. Don't tell us. They're like, we're going to this place now because this person is there and they're very important. That's why we have to meet them.
Aren't they technically showing us and telling us because it's a TV show?
Y'all know what I mean.
Nobody knows what you mean. All right. So before we get into the episode and all the meat and potatoes of what this week was about, friendly reminder, we have a Facebook group now. We have Instagram, Twitter, all of that you can find A Bite of Pod. We also have a Patreon going on, exclusive bonus episodes that are picked by our Patreon members. We just recently released a We Are the Champions commentary on the docuseries on Netflix, and it was bananas. And then also Discord.
Absolutely. And before we dig into this episode, we always like to take a look back. So last week we had episode 2 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier called The Star-Spangled Man. In this episode, Bucky and Sam finally got together. And it was really just like Bucky showing up and be like, why'd you give the shield away? And he's like, dude, I got to go to Berlin. And he's like, okay. So
yeah, he kind of tagged along for the ride, but they all needed to go anyway because they were after the same thing.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So they come together, they fight Carly. What's his name? Captain America is there with
John Walker.
There you go. And they kind of butt heads. They split up again. We meet Isaiah, which is a super important scene. And going forward, we know that these two are on a mission to go see Zemo.
Yeah, the biggest thing about the last episode was finding out that there was other super soldiers that weren't talked about. And it's real fucked up. And it's becoming increasingly clear on why Sam was not willing to pick up the mantle right away. So, and that brings us to episode 3. And before we get into our episode, spoiler warning. You have been warned.
Yes, so let us officially take a bite of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 3, Power Broker. Raw WWE Power Broker.
Is there a wrestler?
No, but there could be. That's what it sounds like to me.
In the comics, he does not look like a wrestler, so that would be hilarious.
He likes suits. He's more the Steve McMahon of the WWE than actually one of the wrestlers.
Which is somehow worse. God. Ugh. Anyway, so this week's episode, I do have to say that the fake commercial that the show opened with, the Global Repatriation Council, it's not the same fun, nice ads that we got in WandaVision.
No.
So
it reminds me of that one episode of 30 Rock when they have that business called Sunstream and the commercial doesn't actually say what it's doing. It's just like stock footage. And you're like, oh yeah, I want to be a part of that. But it actually is bad. They're just stealing your money. And so like, that's what the feeling of like the Global Repatriation Council is. It's
that
like
rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it?
Global Repatriation Council.
What?
Let's just call it the GRC.
Yeah.
How about that? That's what they put on their trucks.
You made it harder to say.
I don't know.
with an
I feel like it wants to have a bibbity boppity tone to it. So trying to do it like Global Repatriation Council, it's like a Global Repatriation Council. That's easier.
Is it?
For me, it is. Try it.
No, I can't.
Try it.
I literally had to edit out the first time I said it. I'm not going to say it again.
Okay, so from now on, Global Repatriation. No, we'll call it the GRC.
Mm-hmm.
Easy enough.
Yeah, true. So after that awful commercial, we meet up with the new Captain America. where he seems like he's getting a bit more desperate to track down the Flag Smashers. And it does look like he's working with the GRC as well, because he pulls up in a GRC marked van and then goes into this cafe to get some answers out of somebody. And, you know, everything that's going on with the actor and the character. So the character itself, Marvel has set him up for us to not like him. There's just everything about him you're just not supposed to like, even if it's annoying, uneasiness, or he's just kind of a dick. That's the point of it.
Right.
So I think this episode is kind of pushing that narrative even more, even though he's probably literally in it for like 2 minutes, this entire thing, because he's already pulling out the "Do you know who I am?" card.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a big ego move, and it's a dick thing to do. And it's seeing that this dude might have maybe some ego problems, anger problems. He is frustrated. So it's like there's a lot going on right there.
Well, right before this, the guy that owns the internet cafe spits in his face. And on, I mean, it's not great. You know, that's not
also,
cool.
I'm not mad.
When Pumpkin spit in New York's face on Flavor of Love, that was the scene that they played over and over again. So that is bad. But I also agree that the "Do you know who I am" line is so gross. And I don't know. It's just like, that is the like most un-Captain America thing to do.
Pacing of the show in this episode seemed weird to me. And I will say this, and I know we typically like to, you know, have all good things to say about it, but we also have to look through it in a critical lens sometimes. And I feel like, because we just got him being like a happy-go-lucky guy on Good Morning America, and then now we have him like pretty much flailing about.
Right. And it's not even like, as far as the character journey, right? There wasn't even like that big of a defeat that led him to be so angry. You know, it was like he kind of bumped heads with Sam and Bucky and was like, all right, well, we're going to go on our own way. And then he automatically went psychopath.
Yeah, I would think that with his history in the military, you would think that just like, because it's not clear if he knows what Sam and Bucky are doing at this point. At least I'm not too sure, because I know he does find out later what they're like. They're kind of a step ahead of him.
Yeah.
And I think that all goes to what Sam said in the previous episode, saying like, hey, we don't have any strings attached to us. Like, we're free agents here.
I do what I want.
Yeah, you're stuck doing where they tell you to go. So it's like, we can't be held back by that. And I think that John Walker is starting to see that a little bit. So it might be frustrating.
Yeah, and I think just taking a step back, kind of what you said earlier, this episode seems very like, we're pushing all this stuff forward because we need other stuff to happen. Right. So it's just like, John Walker's a jerk now. He's trying to bash people's heads in. All right, now go. Now we're flying all over the world. Like, this episode feels very, very, very fast. Right. I don't know if that's only because there's only 6 episodes in total.
Probably.
Or they just have 3 awesome episodes coming up and we just needed this one to get people
It
going.
seems like they really, and this isn't a bad thing. I love the episodic format to it, and I feel like each episode so far has been different from the other ones. It seems like they really stretched like a 2.5 hour long movie into 6 episodes. So there is some filler parts, but they also do rush things a little bit. So, I mean, we'll get into it a little later. It does also seem that since Hoskins and Walker aren't really getting information from this person, they mentioned that they need to bet on someone who has a better hand, which we don't know who that is, but it's interesting that it seems like now they are getting more desperate.
Yeah, it's Gambit. They're talking about cards.
It's Gambit.
It's Gambit.
Imagine
here comes the X-Men.
First X-Men introduced was Gambit.
Yes!
I love Gambit, but that would be such a weird character.
They go follow Sam to New Orleans, and then they run into Gambit, and he's like, "Oh, mon chéri," you know, all that stuff. I got a better hand. Yeah.
And then blows him up.
Yeah, exactly.
End of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Enter the X-Men. That was the whole point.
Phase 4 doesn't really exist.
All right, so next we see Sam and Bucky head to prison where Zemo is being held in Berlin, Germany. Bucky pretty much insists that he goes in alone. Sam is a little apprehensive about that, but I would trust Bucky on this because he did work with him for a while. But I love it right when Bucky gets into where he can talk to Zemo. Zemo's like, I'm going to activate the Winter Soldier. Get me out of here.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't even say hi. He just starts unloading the code words. He's
resting, longing. Like, ooh, this is getting saucy.
Oh, my God. What's going to happen through this plexiglass, you guys?
But honestly, I can't blame Zemo. I mean, Can't blame a guy for trying.
I mean, he's had a lot of time to think, and he's probably been like, okay, the next time I see Bucky, I'm going to just unload these code words. Let's also take a moment to wonder where Sam is at this point. He's just in the waiting room at a German prison.
Yeah.
Hey, guys.
I'm sure it's nice.
Having a coffee.
But the important thing here is that all of that Winter Soldier-y, brainwashy, code wordy stuff is in Bucky's past for what we can see. Like, it didn't activate him.
Right,
so.
but Zemo's like, I know he's still in there. I'm going to get him out. So right off the bat, we're like, Zemo, I mean, we always knew he was a dick, but like he's showing it right off the bat. Like, you cannot trust Zemo.
Well, like I said, you can't blame him. I would do the same thing. Trying to get him to get me out of here. Like,
oh my God.
What? Don't blame. I mean, there's plenty to blame him for. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's a good guy.
He just framed someone, killed a king. No big deal.
It's awful. But yeah, so the last time we did see Zemo was in Civil War. And that's when he activated Bucky and his Winter Soldier programming and used him to pretty much push the Avengers apart. So, like I said, he's not a great guy.
He's got a rap sheet.
Yeah, he's not a great guy. So Bucky tells Zemo that there are more super soldiers out there, and Zemo tells him that he must be desperate for him to come to him to help him out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so next we get Sam and Bucky fighting over what to do about Zemo, and while they're doing that, he's breaking out of prison thanks to Bucky. So all this is a bit too easy, though. I mean, it's not Mission Impossible, but I did like this scene because it's like Ocean's 11 type scene, and Bucky's talking about it hypothetically, but it's a real situation that's happening at that exact time. So it's just a really funny scene. I think it really plays to all those characters. And
yeah, I kind of have to agree that it's a little too easy. Like, at least in like Ocean's 11, they like run through the whole thing and you see how it's supposed to play out. And then like what really happens is like, oh my God, someone's not really there and a piece isn't there. And then someone is like looking at them. Ah! This is like, no. It's this easy. People are going to fight and then he's going to steal a uniform and walk out.
Well, you have the Winter Soldier. I mean, he's like espionage.
Yeah, he's a master of espionage, and all he does is throw a piece of paper on a table. He's like, that's all he does.
That's all he needed to
do. Him and Zemo winked at each other, and they knew the whole plan already.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, so I think this is another thing going back to the rushing thing. It's like they needed to get him out of there, and it was easy, but it gets Zemo with Falcon and Bucky. Or Sam and Bucky. I don't know why I said Falcon. He's not Falcon at all.
No, I know. That's another thing that totally bothered me. We lost freaking Red Wing, and now he doesn't have his wings at all.
And now it's just called Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. He's not the Winter Soldier anymore. He's not the Falcon anymore. This is their metamorphosis into breaking the shield in half like a friendship heart charm, and they'll both be Captain Americas.
Oh, that's not bad.
Right? Like the Wonder Twins.
Oh, but that kind of reminds me of Cap's shield in Endgame where it was like broken. And
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, Zemo meets up with them in the garage that they were arguing in. And Bucky pretty much tells Sam that you're going to have to trust me on this. Like, you backed up Steve during everything that happened with Civil War. I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. So there is that trusting that they do need to have for each other. And I would trust Bucky. I don't think he's irrational in any of the decisions he's really made. The whole conversation with the shield and like, should you give it up? Should you not? They both have their reasons. They're both right and valid. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I wouldn't trust Bucky.
Yeah, no, I mean, like Bucky can barely do sarcasm. So I don't think he can do some sort of like emotional manipulation.
True.
You know what I mean?
He usually just would shoot people.
Exactly. So it's like he'll either talk to you or he'll shoot you. So he's not going to be lying to you. It's just either I'm going to tell you what's going to happen or death.
Exactly. And in all of this, Zemo pretty much agrees to them. Like, I won't do anything without your guys' approval. So
yeah. And then he's like, I started from the bottom. Now I'm here. I started from the bottom. Now the whole team's fucking here. He's like, these are my cars. I am the Baron. I am so rich.
Yeah, we learned that Zemo is like stupidly rich. I mean, he is a Baron. I think hearing that name in a movie or comic book form, you don't really like let it sink in that Baron also means like wealthy.
Agreed.
You're like lords of stuff, but it makes sense.
Yes, when he explained that, I was like,
right.
He's correct.
Yeah.
That is a title, not his name.
He even has like an Alfred Pennyworth like butler.
Yeah. Good old Oznick.
Yeah.
We love Oznick. There is one thing though, when they're in this garage of cars, he opens one of them and on the dashboard of one of the cars is the purple mask.
Mm-hmm.
And
the purple bag.
And bag, mask, hood.
No, it is a mask.
Oh.
It was just because it just, in the comics, sometimes they say like bag and it got like fused to the face. And
But that's my question, right? So when we saw him in the movies, there was no mention of this.
No.
Right? So it's like, oh, like in the comics, does he have a father who
right.
also wore this mask and did evil deeds?
He just left it in the car.
That's another question. Why is it just on the dashboard of some random car?
Yeah,
But
it
it's
is
fine.
interesting. It was almost like this is the character and like, oh, we have to give him like his comic book thing.
Yeah.
Which I always appreciate and I always love, but there's just absolutely no backstory to
No.
this random purple hood that's in the car.
I mean, it's like, I guess the alternative is like when they're on the private jet, he's there with the sewing machine, like sewing a hood. He's like, this is going to be my costume.
I mean, I like the hood. I didn't think it would work in TV or film or live action.
Yeah.
It works.
I mean, that is the one thing about Marvel in general is that they're able to take sort of these comic book costumes and make them look awesome.
Right. As long as you get like the color and the general feel of it,
Mm-hmm.
it's great. Unlike what the X-Men tried to do with all of their X-Men uniforms, which never worked.
Mm-hmm.
I hated every single one of them.
Roasted.
Take some notes.
Oh.
Well, I guess now they're in Marvel, so yay.
The notes have been taken.
Yeah, they will get it. So they take one of, I'm assuming, Zemo's many private jets, and we learn that they have to go to Madripoor to scale the ladder of lowlives.
Which you saw that little Easter egg in the end credits of the first episode.
Yeah.
You're like, this place, we got to watch out for it. And sure enough,
It happened.
it happened.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little disappointed that there was no X-Men involved, but it's fine. I still liked this whole Madripoor trip that we took.
Yeah.
So while our new trio is on the plane, we find out that Bucky's notebook that he has a list of names in is actually Steve's notebook that he had writing down all those pop culture references and things that people told him to, look up. And one of the things that Sam had told him to was Trouble Man, Marvin Gaye's Trouble Man.
Mm-hmm.
And the really funny part about this was Bucky didn't like it because he likes 40s music. This is such like a hipster thing to say, even though Bucky is not a hipster at all. And the funny thing about it is Zemo is so charming in this episode, and he's also cultured. I guess like he talks about Marvin Gaye's album, and he's like, "It's a masterpiece, James. Complete, comprehensive. It captures the African American experience," which simultaneously irritates Sam, but also impresses him.
Well, yeah, Sam's like, well, he's completely out of line, but he's also right. I also think in this scene, though, right? Like you're saying, he's charming, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's got that charisma. So let's see. So he's a sleight of hand magician also because in the prison, he was able to steal a card from the guard. At some point, he was able to steal Bucky's notebook from him, right? We're also seeing him push buttons. So he's like, who's Nakajima? Let's have a fight. This is fun, right? Then he pushes on more buttons, and then he turns to Sam, and he's like, well, you don't know what it's like to be locked in a cell. He's like, oh, wait, you do. It's like he's with them, but he's trying to like stir the pot constantly.
Yeah, I mean, he is a villain, so it's like you can't take him completely out of that. Also, he just might be a dick, like
True.
90% of the time, but he is working with them. It is weird. I feel like this show is really trying to humanize people that they shouldn't be, but also inadvertently making Baron Zemo charming. But even in Civil War, at the end of it, when he had the conversation with Black Panther and he was going to try to kill himself, it's like you couldn't help but feel for him. Because you get his backstory a little bit and how his family died and everything because of Sokovia and the Avengers. And that's what set him on the path of revenge. And it's just, you feel for him. And now he's just kind of charming and you get to see him as a person kind of in this episode.
It almost feels like in a teen movie, like when there's that one jock character and you're like, why are they friends with him? And they're like, well, he has a nice car.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He
They're
has a
like,
plane.
he has a plane, he has a nice car, he has the connections. We
has
have to
Orsnick.
just deal with him. He's got Chaboy Orsnick.
But I think an important part of this conversation in the plane that they had was how Zemo talks about it. It's like how quickly leadership can turn to chaos. And Zemo pretty much draws a line from like Hitler to Red Skull to Captain America. And it's like when people are put on pedestals, their flaws are typically forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
Even if so, like we all hate Red Skull. He's a Nazi. We hate Hitler. Awful person. But the people that are following them, it's like they don't see the genocidal, terrible people that they are. They're like, oh, I'm going to follow this person because of that. So it is interesting that there's this conversation of putting them up there and how those flaws being forgotten can cause problems inadvertently.
Welcome to the world.
Yeah. I feel like in a sense, Falcon and Winter Soldier is about the people behind those pedestals. You know, it's like they may not get the spotlight, but they are almost more important when it comes to keeping the world safe or the opposite.
Yeah.
So,
because what happens when that idol falls? There's also still the followers behind them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Sam and Bucky. They were behind Captain America, and now we are where we are. And in this last bit of this plane ride, Zemo does tell them that they need to go undercover when they get to Madripoor, and Bucky needs to act like the Winter Soldier again. So I don't think, Dr. Rayner will necessarily approve of Bucky doing this, but he doesn't have to go to therapy anymore, so that's great.
Listen, telehealth is something that's huge that we've all learned about during quarantine. Bucky, FaceTimer.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Talk space.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right before they get to Madripoor, we get this little cutscene. We're in a GRC refugee camp in Latvia where Carly Morgenthau is hiding out and saying goodbye to someone important named Danya Madani. And in this, it's a brief scene, and it's meant to humanize Carly a little bit. Pretty much, it's like these are the people that she's fighting for, and these are the people that are forgotten.
Yeah.
So it's like that's really the only point of this scene. And again, they're trying to humanize these people that have good intentions, maybe, but aren't going about them the right way.
So here's my question: is these resettlement camps, right? Are they for people who came back from the blip, or people who got pushed out of a place because people came back from the blip?
Well, I think this all goes back to Sarah and Sam when we saw in that episode, and so Sam was blipped, Sarah wasn't, and this whole GRC thing that came about, I don't think it's necessarily clear when it did, but it seemed like they started during the blip and they were helping people that were still left behind. But as soon as people came back, they cared more about them
right,
than the people that, I mean, think about Sarah. It's like, okay, I have to take out loans, I have to do things or whatever, get all this money. I built up 5 years of debt where all these people that were just flipped back, your credit score got renewed, you get, no student debt, so it's like they're kind of favored over that. And that was also the conversation that I think John Walker and Sam had in the back of that truck. And it's like John Walker is seeing Carly as this like terrible person. He's working for GRC, but Sam is like, I mean, people say that with resources. Right. She doesn't have resources. She's doing what she needs to do. So it's an interesting conversation. I think.
One thing I thought of, and this is all like about like blip stuff, but it's like, okay, this family was blipped out of a home. So then it went into foreclosure or whatever, went up for auction. Another family bought it. That family comes back into that house. Whose house is it?
Oh, man.
Do you know what I mean?
What if we get like a web series on blipped realtors and how they navigate that? I mean, imagine apartment buildings
$1 million blipting.
Yeah. Oh my God, they've created a mess. I think that's the trouble with this though, because it's not that we have to overanalyze this stuff.
Right.
I just think that the more you try to explain something, because like I think if they would have just left the whole blip stuff and like maybe not did anything and did these shows to explain what happened, we wouldn't be questioning it or really talking about it. But now they are. It's like you could convolute the entire thing or just make it more complicated by like explaining little things. But it's like, okay, what happens to people that were in aircrafts? I need to know.
I know. It was almost like I felt like after Endgame, we were all kind of like, okay, cool, everyone's back. Like nobody was thinking about like the socioeconomic structure of the world. And they're like, but wait,
there's
now
more.
This. And we're like, oh no, it's so complicated.
All right. So our trio, they finally get to Madripoor. And I just did want to do a little tidbit about Madripoor. And I did mention it a little bit in the previous episode when I found that Easter egg. But it has been a location in Marvel Comics for a very long time. It first appeared in New Mutants, which is a sub-team of the X-Men. The X-Men have tons of teams. Just if you ever want to read any type of superhero team, just find an X-Men book and there's a team for you. But this actually, the first appearance was in 1985. And it's usually more associated with the X-Men, hence my excitement when I saw that name in the end credits in the other episode, because I was like, they are like 99% Madripoor is always associated with the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I'm excited. Sometimes the Avengers, but that's beside the point. Madripoor is located in like south of Singapore and is more of a small island nation in the books than the bustling metropolis that's shown in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Although it does have a high town and low town in the comics. And then fun fact, a Captain America connection that I found. So Captain America once teamed up with Wolverine there in World War II, marking the first time chronologically that Wolverine and Captain America ever met.
Very cool.
Which was in Madripoor.
It's magic poor.
But I mean, the reason why it's usually associated with the X-Men is because typically through X-Men comics, they're seen as outcasts and they usually don't get help and they have to resort to places that would accept them.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, a place that's just desolate with a bunch of crime. X-Men are useful there. So that's why they're usually there.
Thank you for that.
History lesson on Madripoor.
Glorious.
So back to our guys in our MCU Madripoor. So they're all dressed up, ready to go. They're walking across the bridge, heading towards Madripoor. We got Sam in this sick, snazzy suit, which he says he looks like a pimp, and I think he looks great.
Oh, he looks
personally
awesome.
Yeah.
Zemo's, I'm kind of questioning. I don't understand the fur collar. I mean, I guess maybe it's a nod to his character in the comics who does have fur-lined boots.
I do want to say, though, the MCU and I'm sure a couple other ones, villains love that exact coat. It's always that like trench coat with the fur collar. Vulture in Spider-Man had the same thing.
Yes.
Come on. Like, is there somebody out there making these specifically for villains? I need to know.
Oh my God. Yeah. And you know where they're from? Madripoor. They hang out in Madripoor making these coats. They're like, oh, they're going to love this one. It's the same design. Maybe they do it in different colors, though. And they're like, I'm a genius.
So this is also where we find out that Sam has to take on an alias, which I don't know if I trust Bucky and Sam together trying to be different people around each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, because they're always jabbing at each other, and I feel like they would make fun of each other if they did something wrong. That doesn't happen, but that was my apprehension to begin with. But it turns out he has to take the name of Conrad Mack, a.k.a. the Smiling Tiger. And just to let you know who this guy is, he is actually a character in the comics. So he first appeared in New Warriors in 1992, so he's been around for quite a while. Conrad Mack had claws on his fingers and toes.
Sweet.
Sounds a little bit like Wolverine here. And was mute. So I think they took that out of the equation. Also, probably the claws and toes. He was part of a group of superhumans in Vietnam called the Folding Circle and often battled against the New Warriors. And he's from Madripoor. So there's still that. But there is no evidence in the comics that he was a snazzy, snappy dresser like he is in this live action adaptation.
He could only wear gladiator sandals because his toenails would cut through so many pairs of shoes. It's terrible.
So I feel like this is probably just a nod to that character that does exist in this area, and it just gave Sam the ability. But also, like, he doesn't change his face. He just wears nice clothes. So it's like, I guess nobody does know who the Falcon is.
True. And they also said he looked just like him. So
I mean, he kind of did. The picture they showed, I was like,
also,
he does kind of look
where
like him.
is Conrad Mack? Where is Smiling Tiger?
Yeah, how did Zemo not know that he would be there? He's been in German prison. So
Yeah.
Did he have like a text chain? He's like, hey, where's Smiling Tiger at?
Oh, I mean, like the text relations on this island is huge, as we see a little later on.
So they have to climb the low life ladder. So where do you start? In Low Town. So they're escorted to an underground club with tough patrons and complicated drinks in this club.
Oh my God.
A thug for the power broker does come up to Zemo and makes it pretty clear that he's not welcome there. But the Winter Soldier serves as his protection and just pretty much whoops everybody's ass in this bar that's trying to get Zemo out of there. The drink that poor Sam only had one job, just to look like this person. I don't think he really was supposed to have any acting or any bigger role. It's like Bucky is supposed to be the Winter Soldier, so it's like, yeah, he'd probably have to fight. But it's like poor Sam, he gets to the bar, the bartender's like the usual, and gives him some, I don't care what it is. He has to gut a snake to give him this drink. I'd be like, can I just sit this one out? I'm good. I don't want to drink snake balls. I don't.
Gonads. I mean, something. Oh my God, this snake. Is the snake dead? Does it live in that water? Or is it already steeping in alcohol?
It looked pretty dead. But
Oh
if
my
it wasn't,
God.
that's even worse.
You guys, I mean, like I've heard of like people like drinking snake blood.
Yeah,
But
I'm
never,
good.
I don't know about anything about some sort of snake organ drink.
If I would not even drink the True Blood drink that they actually came out with, I would not drink real blood. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I don't
mean,
want to be a vampire.
Maybe it just tells us a little more about who Smiling Tiger is and, his thirst for snake organs.
I mean, not great.
Not cool, guys.
Anyway, so I guess that Bucky proved he could beat everybody's ass in there. Selby decides to meet with them. And after a slow-mo walk entrance into Selby's office, which I liked, but I was also like, this is odd. I guess it's just the aesthetic of what Madripoor is.
Yeah.
It's like that weird neo-metropolis, futuristic Blade Runner type stuff.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. This episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is like 3 different movies in one movie. It's like Ocean's 11 meets Blade Runner meets Mission Impossible. And it's just like they're just kind of taking sort of action movies, the aesthetic, the brand, the beats, and they're like building specific scenes around them.
Which I appreciate. I mean, it's like if they were in Madripoor in like a completely new setting, I'd be like, that's really weird. But I think because they went to that setting, I'm like, okay, I believe it. Like, I'm here for it.
They're in Cincinnati. What?
Portland, ever heard of it? So they do talk during this, and a name is dropped, an important name. So Dr. Wilfred Nagel is dropped, and this is the person that Zemo and Bucky and Sam want to find that's making the super soldier serum in Madripoor. Then, in typical buddy cop fashion, the Smiling Tiger gets a phone call from his sister Sarah.
Oh, Sarah.
Like, one, come on, you should tell her when your working hours are. But also, Sam, like, turn off your phone.
Do not disturb.
It's undercover 101.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Why do you have your phone on you? I don't know.
I mean, this is just, I think, an exploration of anybody's dependence on their mobile phones these days and how we're all just addicted to them. Even the Falcon, he's playing Candy Crush, he's texting, he's on Facebook. It's terrible.
He was traveling for a good bit of this episode, so I could see it.
Also, I mean, the Avengers just have amazing cell service wherever they go. It's like government.
No roaming.
No roaming charges. Imagine.
I mean, I'm sure Tony made some type of satellite that just gave him unlimited, coverage everywhere.
It's just Pepper at home. She's just like, okay, where are they going now?
So Smiling Tiger tries to play tough during this call with Sarah, but his sister does call him Sam because he did not tell her beforehand, like, hey, if you ever have to call me an emergency, call me Smiling Tiger. I'm
right.
Just saying. But that's when things get intense. So a shot bursts through the window and kills Selby, and a bounty immediately is in effect for her death.
Just like any good elementary school, there is a snow chain that gets set off, and just a mass SMS text message goes all over Lowtown.
I like how did it go out so quickly? Because I'm pretty sure they took out all the guys that were in there. If somebody like in a computer room sitting and watching is like, oh, here we go. And it's like, who is also running this bounty mass text chain?
Right. So it's just like, oh, for fart's sake.
I wonder if it was the person that killed them or killed Selby.
Selby didn't know it was coming. Selby was busy purring at people, telling people to answer their phones on speakerphone. Rude.
I know, that is a little rude.
Rude.
So they're already on the run, framed for her death. And one of my favorite lines in this episode is when Sam is running and he's like, I can't run in these heels.
I know. That's fantastic.
Loved it. Because too often are women put in heels in situations they should not be in. So it's great to see that Sam got to experience this.
And speaking of heels, I think the thing that sets the mood for Lowtown and Madripoor is they show a high heel stepping on a grate.
Oh yeah, it
Dangerous.
did have like studs and spikes. So
oh my god,
sure
a tough shoe. That's so you never walk on grates with heels. You fall right through.
No matter how badass the heel is.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. As they're running through the streets, getting away from people, they literally run into Agent 13 Sharon Carter, who has been off the grid in Madripoor since pretty much Civil War. That's really the last time we saw her. So don't forget, in Civil War, the reason why she's on the run is because she stole Sam's wings and Cap's shield and helped them track down Zemo. So she's on the run. She immediately is like, I'm going to fucking kill Zemo because of him, she has to be a Madripoor.
Oh my god, yeah. She's like, I stole the wings for your ass to kill his ass, and now his ass is right here by my ass. This is not ass-tastic.
That line was so good. Something, though, is off. And I have more examples a little later, but this is my first one. It's like, how did Sharon know they were in town? Like, it feels like a question that the show will never answer. But it is just interesting that she... Like, the only way I could see that is if she's, like, powerful in Madripoor and she, like, also gets another separate text chain of, like, whoever crosses the bridge. I don't know. But it was interesting that she just happened to walk by and kill Selby.
Yeah. I mean, people were, like, recording Bucky beating people up in that bar. So she's, like, constantly on Instagram. She's looking like hashtag Lowtown, hashtag Madripoor Madness, hashtag nighttime, lowlives, whatever.
They're like Madripoor Girl 211 went live.
Oh, heck yeah. She's
Falcon,
like, what? Oh, my God. Taking Q&A? No. Oh, my God. What is this? That's how she knew.
You answered it then. I had that question since we watched it, and now it's satisfied.
She's just bad now.
I hope she's not.
She's jaded.
I mean,
for sure.
I can't blame her.
No, me either.
So apparently now she specializes in selling rare and famous paintings. So she went from being an agent working for agencies to now selling real and rare famous paintings, which Sam was like, no, it's not. And they're like, yes, it is.
She was like, you know what? I stole that shield and those wings. That went pretty smoothly. I'm going to just do it with like famous works of art now.
I mean, she's good at stealing.
Yeah.
So she can do it.
But the apartment.
Yeah. In the same place. So they get changed back. And just like Vision War in his final scenes in WandaVision, wearing that turtleneck. Sam puts on a turtleneck as well. Perfection. I've never seen turtlenecks worn to... I don't like a turtleneck.
Oh, I love a turtleneck.
But seeing a turtleneck on Vision and Sam, I'm like, oh, maybe I can pull it off.
Oh,
I'm not them. I probably couldn't.
Yes, you can.
But I would like to.
You definitely can.
Okay, I'm going to try it next winter.
You should. But I think the thing that we need to know is, does Kevin Feige design turtlenecks, and he's trying to launch his Marvel turtleneck line?
Marvelous turtlenecks. Mm-hmm. So during this scene, as they're getting dressed and kind of formulating a plan, Bucky mentions that, Sharon is kind of awful now. And she also says that, the whole hero thing is a joke. That when she talks to both of them, to me, it feels like a quick turn for Sharon, since the last time we saw her, but I can't really blame her. Everyone that was involved in Team Cap has pretty much gotten a pardon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even Bucky, who's a murderer for decades,
literally,
has been pardoned. Like, she served her country for years. She helped Steve, which in turn helped save the universe, but she can't get pardoned. It's a little, I hope that she's not bad, and I hope that she had to do what she needed to do, but her apprehension and how her being, kind of like awful now, in quotes, I get it. Like, she's just been left and nobody cares.
The world is topsy-turvy. I mean, there's some smarmy guy with the Captain America shield. Baron Zemo's like on my Super Sweet 16, and Sharon's an art hustler. Like, what is happening? Red Wing's dead.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Well, yeah, also, Sam didn't even mention Red Wing, which is interesting.
Yeah.
How dare you? I mean, it is a machine, so whatever.
He should always just be carrying the broken down robotic body of Red Wing. Waiting to fix him. He should be fixing him in every scene. On that plane, he had time.
Yeah, but he probably already fixed it.
They flew from Berlin to Indonesia.
I'm pretty sure he's fixed.
All right.
It's just a robot. So at the end of this conversation, they do offer to clear her name if she helps them find Dr. Nagel, which she takes a little hesitantly, it seems like. So this is where I feel like, again, the plotting is a little rushed, because it's like I get there's 6 episodes and our 2 heroes, like, it's like our 2 heroes are having like a fun night and then it's like, oh, I found him already.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? So it's like the plotting of it, it's like, okay, we have these funny scenes and then it's like rush. I don't know. It just felt odd to me.
I was like, so we like this little party scene, right? We see Baron Zemo do just like a tiny little Jersey Shore fist pump. And like, it's great. They're looking at the paintings. These people are like living for their lives. And I guess she had to have this party to find someone to find out where this doctor was.
Mhm.
But also, like, I don't know, text someone. You know, I don't really necessarily know the purpose of the party scene other than, I don't know, LED
Well, I guess she was
screens?
already holding it so she could sell the art to people. 'Cause she did say, she's like, I have a meeting in an hour, which is fine. It's like all the dots are there to be connected. I just feel like it's like, we're here in Berlin, we're here and here, we're here and here. And it's like, they don't want it, then they do want it. Everybody's changing their minds and within one episode. So it is interesting. I feel like literally everybody in this episode like felt one way and kind of like, whoop, just flipped a little bit or like pivoted. It is interesting.
It's a mess.
Yeah. So they end up tracking Dr. Nagel to a shipyard. There's always a shipyard in stuff like this.
This is the Mission Impossible section
Yeah.
of this episode.
And here they find a hidden lab where Nagel is jamming to some Coming Home Baby by Mel Torme. Just want to put that out there. I do like that song. I like that it was in this episode.
You've heard of tiny homes, but have you met Tiny Lab Makeover?
I mean, that lab was cool. It
This
was very
lab
hidden.
was 3 levels, had secret stairwells, also had insulation, tech equipment.
And a
It's-
lab.
It was crazy.
No.
And obviously, a badass sound system.
I mean, you had to get those Bose wireless speakers put in there. So quick note on Dr. Wilfred Nagel, the guy that is the mastermind apparently behind the newly made super soldier serums. He is from the comics, but he also does have a connection from last week's episode. So in the comics, he appeared in 2003's Truth, Red, White, and Black comic, and it was revealed that Nagel was a scientist working for Project Rebirth, the same one that created Captain America. He picked up the work of Dr. Erskine, which is the doctor played by Stanley Tucci in the first Captain America, and recreated the super soldier serum to be used on black test subjects, including Isaiah Bradley.
Right.
So he has a direct connection to it, and I liked it in the version that we saw on screen. He still has that connection to Isaiah Bradley. So it's shitty. It sucks. I hate him, but also he has that connection.
The storytelling is
exactly,
good. Yeah.
exactly. So we do find that out, and it is the same in the comics. There's some like Jesse Eisenberg, Lex Luthor monologuing happening in this, and Nagel reveals that he is the one that rebuilt the super soldier serum. And
I was a god.
yeah, that's exactly what reminded me of it, because I'm pretty sure that Lex Luthor from Batman vs. Superman said the same thing or something like that.
It's like, bro, you're wearing a flannel shirt. You're not a god.
You're also in a shipyard in a container hiding.
Do you also live here?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't look like you own a brush. I've had it with him.
We find out that he was recruited to work for the CIA, and he was working on this. He was able to isolate the active super soldier serum in Isaiah's blood. Then he was dusted. 5 years happened. His work was abandoned. He comes back and he's like, oh, I want to continue my work. Who wants it? He gets to working with Power Broker and Madripoor. So that's what brings him there. But also, I hate you. Just saying.
Oh, totes.
Right.
Totes my goats. But we also get to see that the blip just Fs everyone over.
Right. I mean, it makes sense. Like,
Oh, totally.
your life's work, and also maybe your whole department doesn't exist anymore. So you're like, I guess I don't know what. I'm just going to go to Madripoor. Who wants super soldier serum? I know how to make it.
Guys, anyone?
We also find out that there's 20 vials of it made. So we've seen 8, I'm assuming,
Right.
so far.
He says that Carly stole them.
Mhm.
So does that mean that there are 12 other super soldiers, or they just have 12 vials?
Right, exactly. I think it might have been inside one of the containers or whatever they were trying to smuggle out. But that's still left to be seen. That's one of the mysteries of this show. But imagine like 12 other Red Skulls or
Oof.
Winter Soldiers. Ugh,
Yeah.
it'd be scary.
Not great.
Don't like that.
Got to be careful who you give that super soldier serum to.
Mm-hmm. So while all of this is happening, all of the bounty hunters in town descend onto the shipyard, And Sharon fights them off, like most of them.
Yeah.
She
It's
really
like,
kicks ass.
okay, let's see. We need 3 people to go in to talk to one doctor. We'll just leave Sharon outside. So again, here's Sharon dealing with all the shitty mess that these idiots have made for her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's amazing during the scene. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, she's stabbing people. She's shooting people. She's using people as shields.
Yeah, poor guys.
She's like, who needs vibranium? Also, bounty hunter guys, like you see, she's kicking ass. Just like back off.
It did look like some of them were like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm going to run this way.
Yeah, one guy was like a little scared, but then he still tried to fight her, and then she shot him.
That hesitation gave her an opening. So when this is happening, Zemo ends up shooting Dr. Nagel right as Sharon was coming into the container to meet up with them. But turns out one of the bad guys brought a rocket launcher. So container explodes, Zemo escapes, puts on his iconic mask, and finishes off most of the goons as our other 3, Sharon, Sam, and Bucky, are trying to not communicate well. See, I didn't communicate well. It brushed off on me.
Damn them.
They're trying to get around them or make way, and they're just not communicating.
Okay, look, I feel like I'm getting really nitpicky with this episode, so apologies. I'm so sorry, everyone. But these people just got blown up in a lab. They come out pristine.
No, they had a little bit of dust and some cuts. They did. Right? Play
Reroll
back the tape.
footage. Yeah. Yeah, I want to see the instant replay. They're talking to each other. No one's shell-shocked. No one's got a concussion.
Oh, well, I'm okay. They've been blown up plenty of times.
I mean, I know they're
superheroes.
They're superheroes. I know. But like,
You can't forget that.
not even a leather jacket was messed up.
I mean,
Anyway.
welcome to comic book stuff. I like how your one grievance with this so far is like their fashion is not in continuity.
Thank you. Well, no, listen. Look, I am a big continuity guy. Like, I have not that I have a theater background. I had a theater minor in college, and like I did a couple of plays and stuff like that. So like it was always a big deal for me that like things were real, right? So if someone's handing you a coffee cup and there's supposed to be coffee in it, there should be coffee in it.
Oh no.
You know, like on shows you can hear them put down like a coffee cup and it's completely empty, even though they were like just sipping from it, or like they're holding it and then they're not holding it and then they're holding it again. Like I tend to notice things like that.
You really do. Yeah.
So jackets.
So at this point,
Moving on.
I didn't have anything to say. So Zemo happens to find a shipping container that he knows, and there is a car that's supercharged, and he goes and picks up Sam and Sharon and Bucky. And at this point, we do get sweet Bucky gets sweet revenge on Sam because he doesn't move his seat up. Great callback. That was one of the funniest parts of Civil War, and I'm glad they brought that back. But Sharon doesn't go with them and has to stay in Madripoor because she's like, no, just go get me that pardon that you were promising me that you'll get.
Right.
And I'm curious if like that's it for Sharon. Only because I just thinking back on the trailers and things that we've seen, I don't think I've seen her in anything else other than what we just saw her in. Because it always showed the shipyard fight with her.
Sure.
So I'm curious if that's it for her. But probably not.
Because
the big problem that she mentions.
Yeah.
When she gets into the car.
Well, she says, we've got a big problem, actually a couple of them. So it makes it seem like she's thinking that Zemo and Bucky and Sam are a couple of problems.
Or is she talking about the super soldier serums that Carly stole?
Also, who's her assistant? Who is this person that's driving her around?
It's like, is she working for Power Broker or is she Power Broker?
Exactly.
I know in this episode he was referred to as he.
Right.
But that could just be them assuming it's a he. And the only person that I think that would recognize Power Broker, because they worked directly with him, was Nagel. And he died right before Sharon walked in.
Yeah.
So he would have been the only person to identify her. Yeah.
And Zemo says earlier in the episode, he, and then he's like, but I only have heard about him. I've never dealt with him directly. And then, you know, we also think that Carly has some sort of relationship with Power Broker, and Carly never mentions a he or a she.
Yeah, she doesn't use pronouns when she talks about him. So we're verging on the end of this episode, and it ends with a quartet of important things. So the first being that Carly is going to like the next level. even though they try to humanize her a bit in this episode, she ends up taking 6 months worth of supplies from a GRC warehouse, I guess, that's just sitting there to give it to people that need it. But she ends up killing the people to accomplish her goals and also trying to stay away from Power Broker. So again, it's one of those things where it's like, I get you.
Yeah.
I believe in what you want. I don't believe in how you're doing it.
And even like when she blows it up, she didn't let the rest of the Flag Smashers know that this was what's going to be happening. No. And her one like colleague and friend, he was like, "Wait, what? What is happening?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, so even her closest like confidants are getting a little nervous with the actions that she's taking.
Yeah, I'm going to think that they're going to go along with her anyway. So
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next one is Walker and Hoskins are getting, it seems, more and more frustrated. And they always seem to be behind everything that's happening, especially the action. And what we find out here is when they're walking and they're talking, and Hoskins mentions, like, I'm guessing what we're going to do isn't necessarily on books. So who knows what they're going to be doing? Who knows what they're going to be talking to? I personally think that if these two are going to get the super soldier serum, they're going to have to talk to Power Broker or somehow get it. Mm-hmm. Talk to somebody that has it. Because I think it would be interesting if they never get it. Because then how much of a threat can John Walker really be?
Right.
To Bucky, maybe to Sam now. So it's like, I feel like they need to give him that extra level.
Yeah, I mean, and this is, I think, another step in him becoming sort of this sort of twisted character of not really good, not really bad. It seems that he's willing to sort of go to extreme lengths to try and win, you know, and we're kind of seeing that painting
that painting being painted.
Yep. We're starting to get that picture being painted right now.
There you go. So the next one is Bucky pretty much says that he's like going to take the shield from the new Captain America himself. Like the combination between meeting Isaiah and what they learned in Madripoor seems to really having like a profound effect on Sam, whose feelings toward the shield, they're starting to change more. Because I think initially he's like, I'm not Steve. I can't be who he was. I can't take the shield. And I think now he's starting to see it as like, this is really fucked up. Yeah. Like, why am I going to take it when there was literally Isaiah? He was already Captain America and nobody gave a shit about him. He was locked in prison. He was experimented on. Like, no, that's ridiculous. He says in the scene is like, how many people have to be steamrolled to make way for this hunk of metal? And Bucky, he also says, like, maybe I should have destroyed it. It's like, you can't blame him for everything that he's learned and everything that he's seen. It's similar to like, it's like a hard look at this country, the same way that you realize it's been built on pain and suffering of Black people and other minorities. Mm-hmm. It's like equating it to that. And I can't blame him for how he's acting. I wouldn't know. I can't say that I can relate to what he's saying. But from when I see, I get it. I get why he's upset.
Well, I think it's also one of those things, if you believe in something so much, you know, he saw Captain America, he believed in it. This was someone that he worked with, that he held in high regard. And it turns out the history of this mantle is pretty shitty.
Right.
And so it's like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. It's like, of course, Bucky disagrees with him because the shield means something different to him. Mm-hmm. So it is interesting. We have both sides of the shield here. You know, one person that it was literally given to, but it's seen as something not great anymore. Mm-hmm. But Bucky is still believing in it because if he doesn't believe in that, then he can't believe in Steve, and Steve believed in him.
Believe in yourself.
I knew that was coming. Knew it. So Sam, Bucky, and Zemo, they're in Riga, Latvia, and Bucky kind of breaks off from them and follows a trail of beeping beads.
Nodules.
Beeping metal beads. And beeps. And it leads to Ayo. And if you remember her, you should remember her. She should look familiar to you. She's played by Florence Kasumba in Captain America Civil War, Black Panther, and Avengers Infinity War. So she's been in the movies quite a bit. Think of her kind of like the second in command to Okoye. Mm-hmm. So she's part of the Dora Milaje, and they're like an elite group of women that protect the Black Panther. So she is part of that. Zemo killed T'Chaka. Mm-hmm. They still want him. And her final line, or the ending line for this episode is, I'm here for Zemo. So now, the boys and Zemo also have to deal with Wakanda, wanting Zemo, and they need Zemo to get to Carly.
It's crazy. I mean, they've now added a whole other, section of the Marvel universe into this story.
That's how you do a cameo, though. I feel like it's so good. They didn't need like a Luke Skywalker, Mandalorian level cameo. You just need her. It's like, oh yeah, Wakanda is still involved in this, guys, especially with Zemo involved.
Yeah.
Ay. Lots of stuff.
So much stuff.
I'm excited though. I can't believe it's almost over, but halfway done, guys.
You know what though? This episode wouldn't be done without a special segment. It's another edition of Bird Facts. All right. Inspired by our hero's travels in this episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I have decided to share with you the bird that has the longest migration out of any animal on the planet. The Arctic tern. Yes.
Turd.
No, Arctic tern. Yes, these fine feathered friends dressed in black caps, white and gray ombre body feathers, and a bright orange beak love to travel. Every year, their migration has them traveling from the Arctic Circle to the Antarctic Circle and back again.
Wait, so they literally do like a circle around the Earth, pretty much.
Yes. Wow. They start at the top, go to the bottom, then come right back up again. They started from the bottom, now we're here. Anyway. Talk about frequent flyer miles. 18,641 frequent flyer miles to be exact.
Wait, you said 18,000?
Yep.
Is Earth really that big?
Apparently so. But also, I read an article, an Nat Geo article that said that they actually think it's 4,000 miles longer than that.
Wow.
This trip that they take. Yeah. So in their 30-year lifetime, they will travel 1.5 million miles.
Jeez.
Giving new meaning to the joke, I just flew into town and boy, are my arms tired. Hit me with the badumcha. Yes.
You got 2 of those so far in the segment.
I actually had this one written in. So you took it first and then you ran with it. So here's to you, Arctic Tern. You are flying in style.
Oh, unlike Red Wing.
Oh. Wow. Okay. Cool.
The way you picture, I'm always excited to see these birds after the fact, but it sounded like you described a penguin, which can't fly. So I'm very curious to see what this bird looks like.
They have a black cap on their heads and white and gray ombre bodies.
So they look like they're at the local coffee shop.
Oh, yes. They are the hipsters that they're basically, okay, so the Arctic Tern is an Instagram influencer who travels the world. And you're like, how? How do they do it? They're hipsters. What is happening?
Right. Like, how do those people afford to travel and do all those things?
I don't know. Migration.
The ability to fly
Yes,
10 billion miles.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, till next Monday, guys.
Bye. Thanks for listening to A Bite Of, artwork and editing by our own Noah. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at A Bite Of Pod and on Facebook at A Bite Of. If you have questions, recommendations, or just want to say hi, you can email us at abiteofpod@gmail.com. You can find us on all podcast platforms. Please be sure to rate and review to spread the word. Hope you join us next time on A Bite Of. Bye.